So in the end, if we reject the idea that Gilda performed any of the murders excepting Alberto Falcone as the one true holiday, we are left with the question, why? Why does Gilda claim that she was Holiday in the end? And again, the answer is simple. Gilda is delusional and has lost touch with reality. This conclusion is easy to see if we analyze Gilda's behavior throughout the book. Gilda has been disappointed for months that her husband Harvey has shown less and less of an interest in her desire to start a family with her, going all the way back to New Year's Eve, which you see on the left side. In the 10th chapter, which you see on the right, Gilda seems to be expressing in her conversation with Barbara Gordon a wish that she and Harvey could reunite and find their way back to each other. Soon thereafter, Harvey has acid thrown in his face by Sal Maroni at a trial and becomes Two-Face, essentially. Harvey flees from the hospital where he was being treated, and when he finally does resurface, he sets free the residents of Arkham Asylum, kills his assistant district attorney Vernon, who was on the take, and eventually puts 2 bullets in the head of Carmine Falcone himself. So your husband goes crazy and kills a whole bunch of people. Is it any wonder that you might then lose your touch with reality yourself? Now, despite all of these heinous acts that Harvey commits, Gilda still loves him and is incapable of completely separating herself from that feeling. She desires closeness to him. And so she creates an elaborate fantasy in her head that brings them back together, a fantasy in which she actively fought to keep her marriage going rather than passively watched it crumble as she really did. She claims that they together were the holiday killers so we could have time together, a child, a secret. This way she can see a good reason in the very bad things he's done and transfer some of the blames for the crime onto herself. Now, on some level, she knows she's in denial. It has been 2 months at that point since Harvey's murder of Falcone. He's been in Arkham all this while, and she is moving. She clearly recognizes the marriage is over and there will be no reconciliation, or she would not be selling her house and packing up boxes, preparing to leave the home that they had shared together. But she wants so badly to believe that it can work out and that he can get well again, that she constructs this fantasy. Thus, her confession takes place while she was alone in an empty house, standing in the dark in her basement. She was trying to convince herself that it wasn't over by building up this idea. All through the final pages of Long Halloween, we are meant to see how much of a tragedy this book has been. Yes, the original promise that Gordon, Dent, and Batman made on the night of Johnny Beebe's wedding to bring down the Roman, on the left side there, has been fulfilled, but at what cost? Batman and Jim Gordon have lost a great ally and friend in Harvey Dent, and Gordon states that he won't know if it was worth it for a very long time. We are given a final look at each of the main characters at the conclusion, visiting them each in private moments. Jim Gordon says to his wife Barbara, "I believe in Gotham City, even though his heart is more than a little broken." He says it to himself to move on, and it is a statement tinged with irony for readers who know that his belief in his job and in the city will lead Barbara to leave him, his adopted daughter Barbara to be shot and crippled, and will eventually claim the life of his second wife as well. Batman, too, stands on a building atop building somewhere in Gotham City, stating that he believes that someday he will be able to keep his promise he made to his parents when they died, that he would rid Gotham of evil. A promise that we readers know is impossible to fulfill, to stop an entire metropolitan area of never having crime again. Not going to happen. So too does Gilda try to keep herself together with this confession, saying on the final page, "I believe in Harvey Dent," even though it too is a foolish pipe dream. This scene was put there by Loeb and Sale to show how far they had each fallen, to illustrate just how sad Gilda's life is going to be, as well as how messed up Harvey's is. Too many people read the book and take the things that Gilda says literally, when they're simply meant to reflect the same feeling of loss felt by Jim Gordon and Batman. The only real evidence we have that these things she says are true are the words themselves, and they clearly are the words of someone who has been crushed by the weight of the world. When it comes down to it, we must follow the advice of Jeph Loeb and turn to the story itself. In the text, we're given 2 theories. Alberto committed all the murders, or Gilda committed the first few, and Harvey did the rest. You can only believe one of them, and having believed the evidence, I believe Alberto. But if you're still having trouble believing that it was all Alberto, then ask yourself this: who does Batman, the greatest detective in the DC universe, think was Holiday? Alberto Falcone. And who are you to argue with Batman?